and I'm sure we'll be welcoming other participants as they are able to come in, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Good evening and welcome to tonight's presentation, Job Search Essentials, presented by Gene Flynn. My name is Patty Smolin. I work as your business liaison librarian with the Schaumburg Township District Library, and I concentrate on a number of different programs, those that focus primarily on job and career transition, startup and growth for businesses, and also financial literacy and money management. So I am going to add my contact information as well as the presenters in tonight's chat so that you will have it for future reference if you would like it. Also, the speaker is going to be addressing questions at the end of tonight's session, but as you do have questions, please pose them either in the Q&A or the chat, and I'll be watching them closely, and then I will address them with the speaker at the end of tonight's session. I also do want to make mention that if we are your home library, you have a number of different sources to tap into to help with your job search strategy. I, as a reference librarian, along with my colleagues in the reference department, will be glad to meet with you on a one-on-one to give you a demo, walk you through our collection, help you identify services to assist with your job search. And if we are not your home library, you are still most welcome to visit and take advantage of what's in our collection. The only difference is the way that public libraries work is your home library is where you have access to all of the e-services and remote access to them. So if you're not sure if you're in our district or not, you're welcome to get in touch with me and I can check on the map to see if you're in our service area. But please know public libraries as a whole are here to help you with any questions that we can to the best of our ability. Take a look here. I just want to make sure that I'm going through all of the logistics I had planned to. This program will be recorded as was sent to you in today's confirmation Zoom link and email. And if you would like to take a look at it for a refresher, it will be on the library's YouTube channel as of tomorrow afternoon. I hope that you did receive the attachment that was sent out from me that was created by tonight's presenter, Gene Flynn. It is an exceptional handout full of a lot of valuable information which you will be covering tonight. If for any reason that did not come to you, please let me know and I will make sure that you do get a copy. Gene and I have been wanting to team up in a presentation partnership for some time. Sadly, the last year and a half prevented that, but I'm so glad that we were both patient and waited for each other for a slot to come up on our program lineup and that he was free to bring this presentation to us. Gene Flynn is a workshop facilitator with the Barrington Career Center and is also known for bringing some quality presentations on this topic and others to some of our neighboring libraries. So I am very confident that we are all going to glean something incredibly valuable from tonight's content. Gene, I want to welcome you on behalf of the library. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Patricia, and delighted to be here. Schaumburg Library, it's just an amazing library. I've been there for presentations on other topics, so I really enjoy wandering through the book stacks and material. So I'm delighted to be here to talk about job search, and here's just a little agenda. So to introduce myself, I'm Gene Flynn. I spent my business career working for large and small technology companies, and working for and typically working to create partnerships with major corporations like AT&T and Motorola and others. After I retired from that, I spent 7 years teaching half-time at Harper College, which was kind of like an encore career that I enjoyed very much. And concurrent with that, I started volunteering at the Barrington Career Center. So I've been leading workshops around job search, particularly interview skills at the Barrington Career Center, as well as other organizations like the Holy Family Job Search Group here in Inverness. So that's just a little bit about myself. So I'm very passionate about helping people in job search, and particularly helping people realize that there are a lot of resources to help you on your journey. We don't want you to be taking this journey alone. But tonight we're going to be talking about some of the big changes in job search. We're going to be talking about strategies and mistakes that people make in job search. And then we'll talk about steps in the job search process, and then resources that might help you. So first of all, here again, this is a little bit of my background, but one of the things I want to point out is when we think about job seekers, that really covers a wide range. Everywhere, as you see on the screen, from a high school student seeking a part-time job to a senior executive looking for a major leadership role in a corporation. It covers a whole wide gamut. And when we talk tonight, the areas that I'm targeting most specifically is what we see here in red. We're a college grad seeking a professional position, a mid-career professional. My grandnephew recently graduated from high school, so he was looking for a summer job at the local movie theater, and he had an interview coming up. And I said, well, for this kind of role, the hiring manager is going to want to know that you're going to come on time to your assigned work slots, that you're going to be dressing appropriately, and that you'll treat the customers with respect. I mean, those are the three critical items for that job seeker in that kind of role. Where we know if somebody is leading a department, seeking a department head position at a company like Motorola or Zurich Insurance, there's going to be a lot more issues involved with landing that job. So we'll be covering a lot of these kind of issues for you tonight. And I think most of the time, most of the items I'm covering, but hopefully everyone will learn one or two new things that they can consider, or things they've heard before, but say, maybe I really should do it in a more focused way, or apply that concept a little more seriously. So let's jump into a little bit about what's happening right now in the summer of 2021. So I sit in on weekly job search networking groups, and firms are hiring people. People are getting hired for large positions where they're hiring 15 or 20 people at a time. People are getting hired for single slot mid-management and senior positions. So it's a great time to be job seeking. And this is before a second phenomena that is taking place, that companies are telling workers that are working remotely, come September 1st or October 1st, you have to be in the office. And we predict, and we're seeing it regularly now, people are going to say, gee, I really don't want to go back to the office. I've enjoyed this remote working. And other people that are in their late 50s or early 60s that were planning to work for 3 or 4 more years say, gee, I can retire now. So that back to the office is going to create even more openings for you to target. So what I suggest in this regard is you look for positions, be sure that you express a willingness to both work remotely or go back to the office. And I would discourage you from saying, I only want to work remotely, because some companies are going to say, even if we're doing remote work now, we're going to want those workers back in 3 months or 6 months or down the road. So show flexibility is what I would encourage. So let's jump into some of the content here. So the first one is looking at big changes in job search. And there are 6 big ones that I want to focus on. The first one is the role of the internet. So the internet is drastically changing the way we not only look for jobs, but the way that people interact with each other. And with the internet, people read and they look we need to be very concise in our message. The example is the 30-second commercial, and there are companies now doing a 15-second commercial. So it means we have to have a great deal of impact when we talk to people as well as what we write. So the action here on the bottom is we need to talk and write for impact. And whether this is an elevator pitch, a resume, or interviews, we want to be concise and have impact early in the message, early in the sentence that we write on our resume. A second major change is the whole role of applicant tracking systems. Applicant tracking systems are these systems that, that major corporations have been using for 10 years that allow people to submit their resumes online and get evaluated by the computer program. And what was the area for major corporations is now being used by middle-sized companies, even smaller companies. One of my colleagues had the story of a person, a one-person company that was trying to hire a second person, and she was using an applicant tracking system to sift through the resumes. And she was using a cloud-based service to do that. She didn't have to spend, $500,000 to buy an applicant tracking system. But the point is, this is filtering down even to small companies today. And these systems, excuse me, I dropped my pointer. These systems look at your online submission and look for keywords to match with the job requirements. And so recruiters or the HR person, they're not reading your resume carefully. Well, first of all, they may get 400 submissions for a job opening. And the applicant tracking system will weed that down to 40, perhaps, resumes, the 40 most promising. The HR person looks at that 40, spends 30 seconds on each one, and picks 4 or 5 to bring to the hiring manager after they do some kind of review of your background. And so the applicant tracking system is weeding out the vast majority of the applications. And we'll be talking about that and how to make your resume reader friendly. The third major change, and this probably isn't a change, employee referrals have always been important. 30 and 40 years ago, when I was moving from company to company, these were important and referrals were important then. But if anything, they're more important today. Many jobs never get posted for mid-career type positions where they're looking for a single opening for a director of graphic arts or an HR position or a director of engineering. Those jobs may not get posted unless they can't find anyone through the employee referral system. So companies feel that if their employees refer someone, it's a better chance of getting a great candidate that will work out well. And in mid-career positions, this is 50 to 60% of the job landings. Referral was the most critical factor in that hire. So resume is important, but the referral, if you're in the door as a referral, the resume is much less important. So the actions on this is the importance of, in your job planning, in your job search, gathering the names. Who did you work with in the past? Who were your customers that you worked with? Getting the names of people that you can talk to get advice in your job search and networking with those individuals. The number 4, the online video interview. This has clearly been key during the pandemic. However, even before the pandemic, companies were using online video interviews to talk to people and to line up people quickly. So the action items here are to practice what makes for a good interview. You can Google what makes for a good Zoom interview, and it will give you lots of advice on lighting and camera, what you should wear, what kind of environment you should be in. So this is very important to prepare yourself. And check out, is your laptop camera of reasonable quality? Some cameras give you fuzzy pictures so that you don't look your best. So all of this is very important and more important than ever. Social media is also taking on a much bigger role. Before the HR person calls you for a phone interview, they've checked out your LinkedIn and your Facebook profile to the tune of 90% plus are looking at LinkedIn. Now, this is not overly critical if you're a high school grad looking for a summer job. But if you're a mid-career professional looking for a position, they typically expect you to have a LinkedIn profile that gives your background, that shows your professional development. Not having Facebook probably won't hurt you, but what you have on your Facebook could hurt you. What do the pictures look like on Facebook? So how will people perceive what you have and what you show on your Facebook? So it's important to look that over and think about what you post as your social media profile. And you certainly, if you're looking for a mid-career or senior position, you want to become a power user of LinkedIn. Okay, the last category, and this is one I added recently, the remote work and hybrid work. I mean, this has been hugely important during the pandemic. And some firms will continue to do that. And we know people that have been hired for a manager working for someone in LA that they've never met face-to-face. It's only on Zoom, and a laptop shows up and they begin work on the following Monday. So this is still very important. But as I mentioned before, be flexible and be open to remote work, but also be open to working back at the office. So those are big changes. Now let's talk about some details. Let's look into another level of the onion, as it were. So here we want to talk about some common job search mistakes, some success factors, and then we want to talk about the job search process. So let's look here. The job search mistakes. And I see, I've done 60 plus workshops at the Barrington Career Center. So these are things that we see on a regular basis. But the first one here is networking the wrong way. It's very important to network, to learn what's happening in your target industry. What are the requirements for the jobs in this position? Some people avoid networking, which is a huge mistake. And then secondly, some people network where they go out and they're talking the whole time. Where networking, it's important to be listening and to learn. The people you network with typically don't have a job to offer you, but they might have great advice and give you additional names. The second item here, some people would rather have root canal than network for 3 or 4 hours a day. And some people spend all their time applying online for positions, where we know that networking is the key for mid-level and higher positions. Where we're applying online, you're applying and competing with 500 other people, where networking is a way to become the preferred candidate and bypass those 400 other people, where it's just you and perhaps 2 or 3 other people you're competing with. The third common mistake is neglecting LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool, and it's become the industry standard for job seekers to understand, to get their profile out there, become aware to the recruiting firms, becoming aware to corporations. Some companies want to hire people that have worked for specific companies, and they can't put that in the posting. But if you want to work for Medline, they may want to hire people that have worked for Baxter Medical in the past, and they can't put that in the posting. But using LinkedIn, they can search for people that have worked for Baxter for and reach out to them through LinkedIn. Resume errors, and resumes are a whole, this is a multi-hour discussion, but some of the most common mistakes in resumes are including old and irrelevant jobs. My colleague Dennis Curtin says you should not have any job listing from the 1990s or earlier. It should be focused on 2000 and more current, and the year 2000 and more recent. The second one, people in the past looked at resumes as listing, these were the responsibilities I have. And today, a powerful resume talks about accomplishments. Most readers, most hiring managers, when they look at the job title, they know what the responsibilities were. They want to know, what did you accomplish in that role? And lastly, boring and cliched, overused words. You can use words like guru and words that speak that you're a 1990s kind of person. We want to use powerful words. Everyone says they're a team player or they're passionate. Those are irrelevant words as for a resume. So we want to have powerful words and powerful specific skills. So here are the success factors. Here are the key things that we want to be thinking about, is knowing what you want and understanding your added value. What sets you apart? I was leading a workshop a few years ago, and the young person was a recent college grad, and he said, "My name is Jose Imanas. I am a recent college grad in graphic arts, and I know all the latest graphic art tools." That was his elevator pitch. Well, as we sat and talked to this young man, we said, "Well, how does that set you apart from any of the other 45,000 recent college grads in the country in graphic arts?" I mean, everybody at Harper College knows all the latest graphic art tools because the companies give them away and they want students to be using them. So nothing he said set him apart. And that's the challenge. You have to figure out what sets you apart if you're going after a job that's a specific opening. Now, if you're looking for a job where they're hiring 30 people at a time for a massive expansion of like doing COVID searching, tracing, that's different. But if you're looking for a specific job and a role in a company or an organization, you have to know what sets you apart. Second one here, I've already mentioned, networking is the single most important skill and activity for mid-career and senior positions. The third here, targeting the right position. Figuring out where will you shine. I mean, I know from my experience, I was 50 years old and I had been very successful in sales, but it was only then that I realized I am much more successful working for selling a complex solution to a complex organization versus selling a brand new product where you're just selling a single product and moving on. I was great. I was in the top 5% of my colleagues when I was selling a complex solution in a partnership to a large corporation. So that's important for me to realize, but you need to realize, where do you excel? Where are you in the top category? And where do those positions exist? Another key factor here, using the job requirements as guidelines. If you are seeking a position, some job candidates, if they don't see 90% match with their skills with the openings, they don't go after that position. I encourage you, if you're 70 or 80% match, put your hat in the ring. Don't hold back just because you don't meet every single criteria. And lastly, preparing for face-to-face. Most people prepare for face-to-face interviews, but you want to be prepared for phone interviews as well, so that you have lined up your skills and your capabilities. Okay. One of the Bibles of job search is a book written by Orville Pearson, and it's called The Unwritten Rules of a Highly Effective Job Search. And he lists 10 steps in the process of job search, and really approaching job search much as you would a project management, as a project, outlining a formal project management steps. And here I compacted it to 9 steps just to keep it simple. But these are the 9 steps. And we'll look at those individually because it brings out some important points. So the first step is understanding who you are and what you want. And this again is your strengths, your capabilities. Where do you shine? Where do you find that you really want to be? And based on your skills, your vision, and that's important because you want to target positions that you will be highly successful at. The second is defining the target opportunities. Where do you excel, and then where do the opportunities exist? I was at a meeting 2 years ago, and I was talking to a job seeker, and he described himself, I am an antenna engineer. I'm a specialist in this field. But I questioned, well, back, 10 years ago, Lucent Technologies in Naperville had engineers doing this work. Motorola had engineers. There were positions like this. Those jobs are gone from the Chicago area. So if you're defining yourself as an antenna engineer, unless you want to move to the West Coast or to perhaps Texas, those jobs don't exist here. But so it's a combination here of understanding where do you excel and where are the opportunities that can meet where you can shine. And the intersection of these two circles, that is the sweet spot of where you will probably have the best chance to shine and to become the preferred candidate. The third category here is the preparing the documents for your job search. And the documents, these are at least 3 that are fit here. One is the elevator pitch, a short statement of your target position and your added value. And here was one I just prepared. Here's a powerful elevator pitch. I'm Amy Smith, and I'm seeking a sales exec position in an information technology company. I hunt for and win major deals by bridging the gap between executive objectives and technical team capabilities. I would welcome any advice on my job search. I mean, the elements here, it's simple, but it's difficult at the same time because you have to have a short message. But the name, a clear message on the position that you're seeking, and a statement of your added value. Here, Amy, she bridges the gap. She bridges the gap between these levels and the stovepipes that might exist in most companies. To me, this is a powerful elevator pitch and should be a model for any mid-career person. Really, any person seeking, somebody right out of college should have a clear position. So this is a clear statement that people that you're talking to, and this could be anyone. You could be at a soccer game watching kids play and give this kind of message. And perhaps the person you're talking to would say, I know somebody, my cousin's in an information technology company. You should talk to them to get some advice. A second document that you need is your professional objective plan. This is your plan of your objective. And lastly, you need a handbill for networking with your photo and professional objectives and capabilities. The next item is the resume. And and as I mentioned before, This is focusing on your accomplishments. And you can use, you want to be able to use an effective resume format, clear and concise writing, and you want it to be ready for get through the applicant tracking systems. Something like 60% of the resumes are rejected by applicant tracking systems because they don't follow the correct format. And the applicant tracking system just kicks it out. And then another 20% get kicked out because it's not a good match for the skills and the requirements. But just formatting alone is a major barrier to get through the applicant tracking system. And that is easily correctable if you get the advice on doing a powerful resume. Words are important here. We want to use powerful words on our resumes that talk about specific skills and certificates. Words like supply chain, project and loss capabilities. If you've been skilled in the concept of agile work or lean Six Sigma, we don't want to be saying these weak words and adjectives, result-driven, team player. Those are irrelevant for your resume, and it probably hurts you, because if you put irrelevant things on your resume, the hiring manager or the HR person realizes this person doesn't know what's critical if you use these overused words. So you can get great advice on how to craft a powerful resume. And just another point, there's the Barrington Career Center. I borrowed this from my work there. Your job search elements should be linked and be consistent. Your elevator pitch, your resume, what you have on LinkedIn, these should be, somewhat pretty consistently matching each other for the accomplishments that you're portraying, and certainly for the interviews. If these are totally disconnected, that's not a good situation. The fourth item, preparing for the interactions. And this is you're preparing to interact with the people, whether it's networking or getting ready for the interviews. So planning the networking, developing a broad list of people that you will seek for advice. And preparing your interview, doing mock interviews with your friends or with many of the other organizations that I'll talk about later. Researching target firms. You might be interested in working in the medical supply field, and everyone knows about Baxter and Medline, but you could work with the Schaumburg Library. There's probably 300 other Chicago area companies in the medical supply field that aren't household names, but they're sitting out there and they may be looking for the skills that you have. So sitting down with a librarian, you can help learn how to research the target companies that you're seeking beyond the ones that everyone knows about. Everyone, in many of the meetings I go to, everybody says, I want to work for Baxter or AbbVie. Well, they're wonderful companies, but there are literally hundreds of other companies that you can target, but you need to do the research, and help is there to do this. The fifth item in the project, thinking of this as a project plan, is lining up references. Who will you talk to seek advice? And there certainly the best people are those that are working in the field that you're targeting, or the companies that you're targeting. But you could be talking to suppliers, you could be talking to other people in that same industry that get advice. But you could also be talking to strangers, even at that soccer game where you're using your elevator pitch. They might have someone that you can talk to. You could be going to, even the religious leaders. There are people out there that know hundreds and hundreds of people. And if you talk to some of those people that are very active in the social environment, or religious environment, they might be able to say, yes, I know somebody that works at that company. I bet they'll be happy to give you 20 minutes to network. So, but reaching out to people to get advice is what we want to target. And networking, I have a short example here. This is, if we say this is Mary Beth in the middle of the circle, she started networking with 6 people that she was directly aware of, perhaps in her target industry or people she knew, past coworkers. But by talking to those individuals, she was able to expand her network, because when she talked to the person in her network, if she came across as well organized, they will give her additional names in many cases, not every case, but in many cases, and those additional names may well give her even further additional names. And sometimes it's that second or third level contact that gives you the most powerful information, or may even know of a company that needs someone just like you. And I know many people are hesitant to network, but I encourage you to network and think about networking, because you're not asking people for a job, you're asking for advice. And even if it's somebody that you worked with 10 years ago, sometimes I hear people say, I would never call someone I haven't talked to in 10 years. More than likely, if they called you, you would try to help them. And I think the reverse is true. Most people will try to help you. And so don't hesitate to reach out to people. And maybe you'll be embarrassed, but believe me, most people will help. Occasionally somebody might say, gee, you've never called me, I won't talk to you. That is actually very, very rare. Most people in our culture will help each other. So item 7 is the execution phase. This is doing the process of networking, of keeping notes, of tracking, of getting back to people that you talked to 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. And if somebody gives you a referral, call that person the next day or two. I am shocked that sometimes I'm in a workshop at Barrington Career Center, and I might be doing interview 2. And I say to this person, gee, I know somebody that could help you, call so-and-so in Indianapolis. They can give you some advice. Well, 3 weeks later, I'm doing the next workshop. That same person is in the room. And I say, well, did you talk to my nephew in Indianapolis? And a surprising number of times they say, not yet. I mean, that is job search malpractice. If somebody gives you a referral, jump on that referral. You get to that person in a day or two. And then get back to the person that gave you the referral that said, I talked to your nephew. It was a great conversation. If you know of anyone else, please give me additional names. But it's closing the loop and being proactive. That's what gets people landing in a faster time. So execution it's about putting in that time. And if you're seeking a mid-career, mid-level position, your job search might be 6 or 8 months. Now, sometimes some of our people that I'm networking with now are finding jobs in 6 weeks. But many times, the higher the position you're going for, the longer the time and job search. So executing it well is really important. Okay, item number 8 is interviewing. And I have a few slides on this because this is kind of I lead workshops on this topic. So, but interviewing, it's top. There's some points I want to make here. Understand the interview objectives. Your objective is to position yourself in the strengths that you bring to the position. You're there not to answer questions. It's almost like these political debates. The candidates somewhat answer the question, but mostly they're positioning the strengths of why they should be elected. So as you talk and in these interviews, we want you to have concrete examples of what you've done in the past that was part of your accomplishments. And people that, whether you're right out of college or mid-career, you want to have multiple accomplishments that you can talk about. And then because that speaks to your past experience, your past behavior will translate into what you do for the future. And this helps build rapport with the manager. One of the techniques that we encourage you to do is when you talk about an accomplishment, give a situation that you were involved in, the action that you took in that situation, and the result. And we call that the SAR process. It's a behavioral process. What behavior did you have in the past? And if you're asked a question like, tell me about your accomplishments, or give me an example of where your work was criticized. For many of those questions, you want to give a concrete example with using a SAR. And if you were in sales like myself, it's relatively easy because I was involved with one deal after another during the course of the last 5 or 10 or whatever years. But if you were in a financial manager, if you were in HR, there were still accomplishments that you achieved, and you want to be able to talk about that proudly in the interview. Here's one. This is a real example from my teaching at Harper. A recent college grad. The question might be, tell me about your accomplishments. And a student could say, I find creative solutions. For example, on a major class project, my team had 2 Japanese students with weak English writing skills. Some team members wanted to take over their work, but I worked out a plan for the 2 students to write in Japanese, and I used Google Translate to convert to English. Their efforts contributed to a great project, a happy professor, and an A grade. Now, this is a true story from a marketing class that I had in a major project. Now, these students, the students that were part of this could be a great story in their interviewing for their first professional position. You know, they don't have a whole lot of work history, but they have their college success stories to share, or their internship stories to share. So this is what we want to build into the interview. Here's another one that I love. This is a woman that was early 40s. She was the community outreach director of a major corporation downtown. And the question was, tell me about your accomplishments. And her answer was, I'm a great problem solver. For example, as outreach director for a major insurance company, I supported the VP outreach to inner city schools. Every month, 5 VPs spent 2 hours tutoring math to 5th graders. The VPs and the kids were frustrated with the school supply materials. I hired an educational consultant and redesigned the materials. The results, happy VPs, the kids learned, and they and their parents appreciated the effort, and we got great press. And I love this answer for multiple reasons. First of all, before she even answered the question, she gave a skill. And the skill was, I'm a great problem solver. And then she gave an example, and this example speaks to the fact that she understands the 3 critical elements of this job. And that if she didn't do all 3 of these, she was a failure in her role. But happy executives, doing good, teaching, kids were learning, and finally, good press. And that she realized these are the 3, and I'm sure there were other responsibilities that she had. She had to do her expense reports on time and all these other things, but none of that mattered if she didn't do these 3 things. And she demonstrates that she can do these under pressure situations, and this sets her apart from all the thousands of newly minted people for community outreach and public relations. She is a pro, and she can demand a much higher salary and a much higher role because of her experience and her credibility. To me, this speaks of power. Okay, so now one of the other questions that is important for us to think about on interviews is understanding potential issues behind the questions. And there are tough issues for everyone, whether you're returning to work after raising some kids, whether you're in your mid-50s seeking a position, but understanding what are the concerns that the hiring manager might have and how do you address them. And for example, here's a common question, or a potential question. You've been with your firm a long time. Won't it be hard to switch to a new one? Now, so you might say, well, this is easy to answer. I can say, yes, it won't be difficult at all. I'm looking for a new challenge. But understanding what is the concern. Now, the hiring manager might not, or probably won't say, gee, you're 55 years old and you'll be working for a 28-year-old manager and everyone else in the department is under 30. How will you work in that environment? They won't ask that question because that sounds like they're practicing ageism. However, that's still a concern, and it might be a real concern. Maybe they've hired people that have come in with this kind of experience and had an attitude that I am superior to everyone else because I have 30 years experience. So it's important to understand what are potential concerns and how do you, as a job applicant, address those concerns. And perhaps in another story that you give, another example, you talk about your ability to work in multicultural and multi-generational environments. But it's a question of understanding what are potential concerns for the hiring manager and how do you dispel or knock out those concerns. Okay, enough said. There we have the message I just gave. So the last point here, and we're getting close to the end, is evaluating and negotiating the job offer. Is the fact that you get a job offer doesn't mean that you should accept it. Maybe it's a bad offer, maybe it's the wrong company. While you're delighted to have an offer, you really want to be sure, is this the right position and will you be successful here? But the other part of this is the fact that you have a job offer, maybe you could modify it a little bit. In many cases, it need not be the final offer. And perhaps you could ask for more money, although that's a harder one to ask for, but perhaps benefits, stock options might be a situation. And here's a real example. My brother-in-law is in Minneapolis, and a good friend of his worked for Northwest Airlines in maintenance and then now merged with Delta. He was a senior pro at managing the maintenance of Boeing jets. And Boeing knew him well because of their long working history. And they came to Buddy and said, Buddy, we want to hire you and move you to Seattle. We have a great pay package for you. We want you here. And Buddy was so delighted, he said, yes, we'll move my family and we'll be out there. Now, the pay was great. They were paying for all the relocation. But perhaps Buddy who should have asked for something else. And now Buddy was a 30-year employee or 25 years at Northwest/Delta. He had 5 weeks vacation. And perhaps he should have said to Boeing, gee, would it be possible for me to have 2 weeks or 3 weeks after a year? But Buddy did not do that. And so he had 1 week vacation after 12 months because that was the standard within Boeing. Now, I believe that hiring manager would have said, absolutely, Buddy, you could have certainly 2 and perhaps 3 weeks. It doesn't actually cost that manager any more money to give him an extra week vacation. But so I think it would have been very, very easy and appropriate to ask for that, but Buddy did not. So in this regard, when you have a job offer, I encourage you to talk to somebody that get some advice. to see, is this the, is there something that you could ask for that would be appropriate? So that's evaluating the job offer. Now, the last point I want to talk about is resources that can help you in your job search. And I've mentioned a few already. And so we encourage you not to be a Lone Ranger. And if any of you are out there under 40, you may not remember the Lone Ranger, but he had some help from his sidekick Tonto, but he did much of his work alone. And we encourage you in job search, don't be a Lone Ranger. Get help, get advice. There's lots of available help. I list some here. The college placement office. Many colleges have references of all the past graduates and where they're working and what kind of industry. Very easy to tap into that for advice. The Barrington Career Center is particularly for people in mid-career and senior roles. It's very intensive program for your very intensive job search. They're professional organizations. If you're a finance person, there is the Chicago Finance League, or professional organizations. HR has one, engineers have them, but these organizations, they meet, so it gives you a lot of chance to meet with other people that are employed and network. The libraries, as I mentioned earlier, can be very helpful on targeting industries that companies that you're not aware of. Area churches, we have a wealth of assistance here. I volunteer at Holy Family, which meets every Saturday morning for networking sessions, St. Hubert's, Willow Creek, and none of these do you have to belong to the church or the parish. Everyone is welcome. But there's more at the Illinois Network Center in Arlington Heights. This is paid for by the Illinois Department of Labor. And there's temp agencies and contract work. And this is, in today's world, contract work is very, very, very common. We have people from the networking and groups I belong at that have 6 and 8 month contracts at Walgreens and other companies. And they're working on a team of 40 people, particularly in IT, the information technology. Contract workers are very, very common. So they might be on a project with 40 people and half of them are contract workers. And unless you ask someone, you really don't know who is a contract worker and who's a permanent Walgreens employee. So this is, sometimes people think, well, I'd never do temp agency work. Well, this is very, very common and often, then sometimes leads to a permanent position. So don't hesitate to consider contract work. So I think those, just to summarize, I think I have one, this is the final slide. Understanding, if you were to summarize the 5 key points, understanding and articulate your added value. If you can't articulate it, the people you talk to won't necessarily be able to decipher it. So you're in the best position to understand and articulate. Creating a strong project search plan. I mean, this is hard work if you're going after a mid-career position, but it's a methodology of planning and executing what might be a 3 or 4 or 9 or 12 month job search. Sometimes, friends of mine had worked at the Chicago Board of Trade and those jobs just disappeared. And they were kind of dinosaurs in terms of the old world. They were doing a 12 and 24 month job search, recreating and rebranding who they were and what they could add value, because the old world disappeared and they had to recreate where they would be going for the future. But having a plan helps you know where you are in the process on this journey for the landing the great job. Getting help on your resume and interview skills. Most people do not need to hire a resume writer. There's lots of resume support right in the area that can help you. There's books that help you. The fourth point, networking. I can't stress the importance enough, the importance of networking. And it need not be as painful as many people assume it is. Many people are hesitant to network, and we want to get over that hesitancy so that you can be highly effective in your search. And lastly, having goals, so establish celebrating success. If you're in a 9-month job search, you don't want to wait the 9 months to celebrate. If your goal is to network with 3 people in this coming week, and if you achieve that, you want to celebrate that success because that's part of the process. And lastly, taking care of yourself. Networking and job search, it's a stressful thing. We say to people, job search should be a full-time job. And that might be 30 hours a week that you're spending in job search. But don't spend 8 solid hours at your laptop and on the phone. Take a break, walk through the neighborhoods, enjoy life with your family. You can't suspend life for this time period of time. You have to merge your job search into the rest of your life and treat it as a job, but make sure that you have a break from the job so that you're still doing fun things. So those are the messages that I want to relay. And again, lots of resources that can help you. So Patricia, are there, I see we have a few chat questions. So can you share a couple?
Of course, Gene, actually, and I really sound in advice here. I don't see a question. I have some comments that I had added, which were based on your handouts. The handout that you had sent out to me and that I sent out to others. I was busy trying to find some of your recommended titles and make sure that they were in the library so people could find them. So there are 3 titles that you had made mention of in your handout, and I wanted to verify to all our attendees tonight that they are in fact in the collection. If anyone would like to check them out, if you want to place them on hold, please let me know. I'd be glad to do that for you if you have a library card that's registered with us. And if not, just visit our library or your home library. You did get a hello message. I will leave that to you from somebody that I think may know you in the chat, named Vanny.
Okay, good. Yeah, let me look.
So I'm going to open this up. Anybody have any questions? We're going to stay open for a few moments to see if you have any lingering questions for Gene Flynn. I have a question for you though, Gene. For the Barrington Career Center, is an appointment required for somebody to come and meet with you? What's recommended?
So the Barrington Career Center is the logic of the Barrington Career Center. If you think of the outplacement companies that exist, and like, for example, if a major company like Walgreens, if they lay off a group of mid-career people, they say, we're going to send you to an outplacement company, and the Barrington Career Center probably pays that company $5,000 or $6,000 per person for 6 months worth of service. So Barrington Career Center works and offers basically the same kind of high quality support with an individual coach and 10 or 12 different workshops, but the annual fee is only $200 because they have volunteers like us, and we don't have a big staff of paid staff. We have a group of volunteers. So you can check out the Barrington Career Center on their website, and you could go and attend an introductory session to learn about all the resources and what they offer. But it's a 3-prong event. It's individual coaching, it's workshops that follow a logical pattern, and then it's a job support work team that meets weekly, that's supporting each other and as a kind of an accountability team to support each other and help each other stay focused on their job search.
Thank you for the background. We do have a question that just came in. to you. It says you say that resumes are only looked over in the first 30 seconds, but then you say our resume should be filled with accomplishments only. How are we supposed to get their attention so they actually read the resume?
So, okay, good question. So I think the the resumes, they're focusing the changes in the resumes that have taken place over the last 10 years or 15 years. They previously talked about responsibilities. Now it's much more focused on accomplishments and specific skills, hard skills that you have. So when we write a resume, for example, when we talk about an accomplishment, my colleagues say you want to have impact in the first 4 words of that sentence. And for example, you might have an accomplishment that I created. I took 5 applications in my company and it converted them to a cloud application and saved my company $10 million. So that's an important accomplishment. But my colleagues say you want to reword that to start with the words that say, I saved my company $10 million by taking applications to the cloud computing. So getting impact early in sentences across your resume is one of the keys, so that when people read resumes, and people tend to skim resumes now, and most of us tend to skim the internet. We know the internet has changed the way people read. So we want to have impact early in a sentence, and we want to use words in the resume that show impact, and they're powerful words that can have impact on the reader. Those are some of the techniques in resume writing that we stress.
Gene, would you say, and this is just my tag along for this question, would you say that I've always thought quantifiable measurements really help paint the picture for a potential hiring manager in a resume? So like you gave an example, whether they're dollars or staff numbers or acquisition of client numbers, anything that just helps describe in a more tangible context to a potential hiring manager what you've done. Because when things are really vague and a lot of word and fluff is used, and a hiring manager can't get that image of what that candidate's doing, that sucks up that 30 seconds. But if you actually note those quantifiable accomplishments, and they don't always have to come in the word of dollars, I mean, not every field is dollar specific.
No, that's absolutely right. And the other word that you use there that's important is context, because you could say, if we look at the words that we use, maybe you wanted, and I'm using a sales example, but this could also apply in many, many other roles. But like for example, in HR, if you did a role in HR that reduced employee turnover from 20% to 15% turnover. Now, so that's an important thing in HR. Employee turnover costs money. However, if you put it into context, because if the context is you save this turnover among engineers, because is different than you save the turnover among fast food workers, because in engineers the cost to hire and train and bring somebody on board is much higher than it is for fast food workers, where there's already a huge turnover. So, but putting into the context that these were engineers that you saved, reduced turnover, and that saved so many millions of dollars a year by reducing turnover and getting products meeting the needs of the marketplace by the engineers being there to develop the products faster. Putting things into context gives people a much better understanding of the importance of the work that you were doing.
Okay, thanks for the clarification on that. We're going to get on to another question in just a moment. I do want to mention, of the 3 books that you had recommended, of which I found in our library, to attendees, you're going to see a consistent Dewey Decimal number. And yes, Dewey Decimal is still alive and well for organizing the books in most public libraries. But one of the magic numbers in a job search will be the 331 area. And in that 331 area, either you can browse for it or you can tap into any of the reference librarians. Will walk you over to it. There are a number of books that are specific on powerful punch words for a resume. So not just resume templates that you can choose from, but actual words that really help your resume stand out. Most libraries will have fine books like that. I would recommend that you take a look at it, see what applies to you. You want to make sure that the words are relevant to the nature of your work and your background. Also be cautious not to overuse the same word. Once you fall in love with a word, make sure it's only used maybe once, once on a resume. I know someone that really is attracted to a particular word choice and then they use it 5 times, which just becomes redundant. So please tap into your library for that because it can help you craft that resume.
I would add, just to add something to what Patricia covered there, you can Google outdated words for information technology. And there's a number of words that were very, very common, 20 years ago, like the World Wide Web. Well, if you use that term in a resume, you're speaking of, I'm a 1990s kind of person. There's even things that might seem silly. Like, for example, years ago, we used to put a parentheses around an area code. And anyone under 40, telephones are 10-digit numbers. This area code, most people under 40 have no idea what an area code is. And so using the words World Wide Web or even using parentheses around a telephone number, that is speaking that I'm somebody in my 50s or 60s. And we, there's enough problem with ageism. We don't want to, we want to show that we're current in our approach and in our thinking. And you can Google these kind of questions and get advice at the library on how to avoid old, tired, overused words.
Excellent point. All right, so your second question, if you don't meet all of the requirements for a job, how do you keep your resume from getting thrown out?
So different people, so one of the things that we recommend is you can load a job posting into a service that looks at the position and looks at your resume. And for example, there's a company, a website called jobscan.co. And it's not COM, it's jobscan.co. And this application will look at your resume and it will look at the job posting and it will give you a number that says you are an 80% or 90% match between your skills and the job applicant, the job posting. And you can do, I think you get 10 free scans, and then they want you to pay to get more scans. But if your match is only at the 50% level or 60% level, that says the applicant tracking system will likely just kick you out. So either you probably should say to yourself, either I better think about, do I actually have those skills, or is this job I shouldn't bother applying for? But what we do encourage you, some people hesitate to apply even if they're only an 80% match. And we encourage you, apply if you're an 80% match. Don't feel you have to have a 100% match to go after a job. Oh, you're on mute, Patty.
Sorry, I'll get this. Thank you. And the other question I have is, what are your thoughts on a cover letter?
A good question. Like a cover letter, it's good to send a cover letter. The applicant tracking system ignores the cover letter, but eventually, if it gets to that HR person, a cover letter, they'll often, if you're one of those 40 that they're looking at, or if you're that final category, reading the cover letter often takes place, but it doesn't take place until after through the applicant tracking system. But it's a very good style to have, particularly if it shows that you're interested in this position. So we encourage you to send an applicant tracking letter, and we encourage you to send a personalized email after the interview, as another gesture of good human interaction.
I also think it's an excellent opportunity for a hiring manager to get a sense of business communication styles from an applicant.
It's, doing research on the company that you're going to interview with shows that you're serious about the position, and even asking questions. If you ask a question in the interview that was readily apparent on their website, it kind of says you really didn't do much research. So you're probably only marginally interested in this position. So taking the time, when I was in the sales world, I might spend 4 or 5 hours preparing for a 1-hour meeting with a customer. And I think the same strategy applies for job interviews. Do the research.
Fine point. And I would like to say this is where reference librarians can really come to your aid. This is what we study, we enjoy working on with patrons. When a patron is working to prepare for an interview and wants to do that appropriate background search on not just the company, but perhaps the field itself, the profession, competitors, what's happening across the board, either nationally, locally, globally. This is where you can tap into your reference librarians to help you with that, and also to get some solid, relevant questions to ask of your potential hiring organization. So it makes you an informed candidate, an interested candidate, that that the hiring manager knows that you are not there just by default, but that you really, really want to work for this company, this position, this field, and you're well-versed in it. So please, you can go it solo. I love the Lone Ranger reference, Gene. I'm on board with that. No one really wants to be out there solo. So please tap into your librarians wherever you may be, because we would appreciate the opportunity to work with you to help you in this.
Yeah. If there's two, perhaps oversimplifications by gender, men tend to be much more inclined to Lone Rangership. And I think women tend to interact with each other for advice and support. The other gender generalization is women, if they're not 90% sure of a match with the requirements, say, oh, I don't have all these requirements, I'm going to stand back. Where a man might say, the generalization is, if they're 60%, the men will jump for that job and apply and feel they can fill in the rest. So we encourage both groups, work with other people and do a stretch of your capabilities. Don't hesitate to apply to something, even if you're not 100% or 90% of the requirements. It's worth at least getting your name in the ring. And many times there may be another role at that company that you'd be perfect for, but get that interaction going to see if it can lead to something.
Question from me, Gene. What if someone is interested in doing a mock interview and they don't have someone to pair up with? Is that something that the Career Center can help with?
There's lots of help for that, but the best help for that is for locally is the St. Hubert's Job Search. They have mock interviews. The Barrington Career Center, there's some of coaches of these groups that love to do those mock interviews and are very knowledgeable. And sometimes you can even arrange for somebody that's knowledgeable about the industry that you're applying to. And as does Willow Creek. The Barrington Career Center, you really have to be a member, join that group and go through their process. But these other groups, you can just stop in for that particular role.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you mentioned all of our other neighboring organizations. I know that they've been wonderful to partner with through the years for this purpose too. Any other questions from our attendees tonight? Because if you have them, we will address them. And if you think of something later, you can either contact Gene Flynn at his email address, which I provided in the chat, or
there it is,
contact our library.
So,
okay.
Very good. So thank you, Patricia, for hosting tonight. It's fun to share, and I wish everyone here success. You will, if you plan, you will land and get a great position. But reach out and get help, and whether you're right out of high school or whether you're in targeting your last position in your career, there's resources that can help you.
Well, wonderful. Gene, you brought us a really remarkable presentation tonight. It was remarkable because it hit a lot of different areas, all of which job seekers need to hear. I always need to hear it again. And I will say I appreciate how you identified taking care of yourself through the process. This is a lot of work, looking for a job, full-time job. We've all heard that. But to stop and celebrate the successes as you go along in your momentum, and then also just to make sure that you take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, all of it. And if the library can help to find, books on this topic in your job search, sources for your job search, that's excellent. But please also know that you deserve to have entertainment and music and films that are entertaining and pleasurable to you too. So the library and other organizations are here to support you in your search. Tap us. We would be more than happy to work with you. And Gene, I hope to meet you in person again someday soon.
I look forward to that, Patricia. Thank you again for hosting.
And thank you all for coming out tonight. Good night.
Good night.